In this video, we're going to talk about something many grandparents in America are quietly living through: being cut off from your grandchildren. For years, you may have been the first call when your grandchild took their first steps, or the one your child turned to when they needed help. You showed up with meals, you babysat, you were there through the ups and downs. And yet now, it's been weeks, months, maybe even years since you've heard their voice. That silence isn't just hard. It feels like a kind of heartbreak with no clear name. You're not alone. Across the country, loving grandparents, just like you, are going through the same painful experience. They raised their children with care, they gave everything they could, and now they're left on the outside, wondering what went wrong. It feels unfair, confusing, and heavy, like the ground has shifted under your feet. Before we start, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Just drop your state or city in the comments below. Point 1. Understanding the pain of estrangement. The first thing we need to talk about is the pain itself, because unless we name it, it just sits heavy in our hearts. When you're cut off from your grandchildren, it isn't just missing out on playdates or birthday parties. It feels like losing a piece of your own story. You worked hard, raised your kids, supported them through their struggles, and you imagined these later years would be filled with laughter, family dinners, and small arms wrapped around your neck. Instead, you find yourself left out, with no clear reason why. That pain is real. It's not something you can just get over. For many grandparents, the silence feels like rejection. You may have left voicemails that went unanswered, written cards that were never replied to, or even sent gifts that came back unopened. Every one of those moments can feel like another door closing. And it's natural to ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Or why doesn't my child want me in their life anymore? Those questions can keep you up at night. But here's the truth. The hurt you feel is not a sign of weakness. It's proof of how deeply you love. Grandparents often carry a kind of quiet strength, the kind that's been built over decades of caring for others. So even though this heartbreak feels unbearable, it also shows the depth of your heart. Recognizing that is the first step. Because you're not just grieving lost time with your grandkids, you're grieving the role you thought you'd always have in your family. And that grief deserves to be honored, not ignored. Point 2. Why estrangement happens. One of the hardest parts about this kind of silence is not knowing why it happened. Many grandparents say the same thing. I don't even understand what went wrong. And that confusion can make the pain even sharper. The truth is, estrangement often builds slowly, sometimes from small misunderstandings that grow into something bigger. For example, maybe you offered advice about parenting, thinking you were being helpful, but your child or their spouse saw it as interference. Maybe there were disagreements about how the children should be disciplined, what they should eat, or how much screen time they should have. What you thought was love and concern may have been interpreted as control. It doesn't mean your intentions were wrong, but sometimes intentions and perceptions don't match. Another common reason is the influence of a son-in-law or daughter-in-law. They may come from a different background or carry their own unresolved hurts. If they feel judged or misunderstood, they may pull your child away, creating distance between you and your grandchildren. That can feel deeply unfair, especially if you've tried your best to be kind. And sometimes, it really does feel like it comes out of nowhere. One day things seem fine, and the next, the relationship has shifted. That's what makes estrangement so painful. It isn't just about losing contact. It's about losing the closeness you thought was unshakable. Here's what's important to remember. Estrangement doesn't mean you're unloved or unworthy. It often comes from complicated family dynamics that are not yours alone to carry. Understanding that can bring a little clarity. You can't change the choices your adult children make, but you can decide how to respond. And that's where your strength lies. Point 3. The emotional toll on grandparents. When you're kept away from your grandchildren, the pain doesn't just sit in your mind. It lives in your body and heart. For some grandparents, it feels like carrying a heavy weight every single day. You walk past the toy aisle in the store, and suddenly your chest tightens. You see another family laughing together in the park, and it feels like a reminder of what you're missing. Even simple things like hearing a child's laughter in your neighborhood can stir up a sadness that's hard to explain. The emotional toll is real. Many grandparents describe it as grief, because that's what it is. You are grieving not only the time you've lost, but also the role you always believed you'd have in your family. It's a loss that doesn't show on the outside the way other grief does, but it cuts just as deeply. Some days, It feels like an ache you carry quietly. Other days, the emotions are so overwhelming they bring you to tears when you least expect it. This kind of pain can also make you question yourself. You may replay conversations in your head, searching for what you said or didn't say. You may wonder if you should have been more careful, more quiet, or more firm. That cycle of self-doubt is exhausting, and it can lead to loneliness, even depression. But here's something important. You are not weak for feeling this way. Your sadness comes from love, and love is never a weakness. The fact that your heart hurts so much is proof of how deeply you care. Naming the toll it takes on you isn't complaining. It's the first step toward protecting your emotional well-being. You deserve to honor your feelings instead of pushing them down. Point 4. Respecting boundaries, even when it hurts. One of the hardest lessons for grandparents facing estrangement is this. Sometimes the only way forward is to step back. When your adult child says, "Please don't call right now," or "We need space," every part of you wants to push back. After all, you've spent your whole life showing up for them. How can you suddenly stop? But as painful as it feels, respecting their boundaries is not a sign of giving up. It's an act of love. Think about it this way. If you keep knocking on a closed door, the person on the other side is less likely to open it. But if you step back and give them the space they've asked for, you're showing maturity and respect. You're saying, "I hear you. I'm willing to wait." And that can be the beginning of trust being rebuilt, even if it doesn't happen right away. This doesn't mean disappearing completely. It means finding gentle, thoughtful ways to leave the door open. A short note that simply says, "I miss you. I'm here whenever you're ready to talk." No guilt trips, no long explanations, just a reminder that your love is steady. A message like that is more powerful than a dozen unanswered phone calls. Respecting boundaries also gives you a chance to breathe. Instead of exhausting yourself by chasing, you can redirect that energy toward your own healing. It helps you step out of desperation and into dignity. Yes, it hurts. It goes against every instinct you have as a parent and grandparent. But honoring boundaries is not about letting go of love. It's about showing a different kind of love, one that waits patiently and leaves the bridge standing for when they are ready to cross back. Point 5. The power of listening. If the time ever comes when your child decides to talk, one of the most powerful gifts you can give is simple. Listen. Not the kind of listening where you're waiting for your turn to explain, defend, or correct, but listening just to understand. That's harder than it sounds, especially when their words sting or feel unfair. But true listening can open doors that nothing else can. Your child may tell you things that are painful to hear. They may bring up moments you never realized hurt them, or accuse you of being controlling, interfering, or critical. You might sit there thinking, "But that's not what I meant at all." And maybe that's true. Maybe your intention was love, but what they felt was different. In that moment, the best thing you can do is resist the urge to argue and simply acknowledge their feelings. Words like, "I hear you," or "I didn't realize that hurt you, but I understand now," can do more to soften the wall between you than any explanation ever could. Listening doesn't mean you're agreeing with everything or taking on all the blame. It means you're showing humility, the kind of humility that says, "Our relationship matters more than me being right." That kind of posture can be deeply healing, because when people feel heard, they begin to feel safe. And safety is what makes reconciliation possible. It's not easy. It takes strength to sit with accusations you don't fully agree with. But think of it as planting seeds. Each time you listen without defending, you're planting trust. And trust, over time, can grow into something new. Even if the past can't be changed, the future can look different when listening leads the way. Point 6. Finding healing while you wait. Waiting is one of the hardest parts of estrangement. You never know how long the silence will last, or if the door will ever open again. That uncertainty can feel unbearable. But here's the truth. While you're waiting, you still deserve healing. You still deserve peace. You don't have to put your entire life on hold. One way to begin healing is by giving your love somewhere to go. Many grandparents find comfort in writing letters to their grandchildren, letters they may never send. You can write about birthdays you've missed, memories you cherish, or hopes you carry for their future. Some people create scrapbooks filled with photos and stories, or light a candle each evening and whisper their grandchild's name. These small rituals remind your heart that your love is still alive, even if the relationship is paused. Healing also means reconnecting with yourself. For years, your focus has been on your children and grandchildren. But what about you? Maybe you used to love gardening, painting, singing, or volunteering. Those pieces of joy are still waiting for you. Bringing them back into your life doesn't erase the pain, but it does give you moments of light in the middle of darkness. And don't be afraid to lean on support. Talking with a friend, joining a grandparent support group, or speaking to a counselor who understands estrangement can lift some of the weight from your shoulders. Sharing your story doesn't make you weak. It helps you carry the grief with more grace. Healing while you wait isn't about giving up hope. It's about choosing not to let pain be the only voice in your life. You can honor your longing and still build a life that feels meaningful, even in the waiting. Point 7. Living beyond the pain. Even in the middle of estrangement, it's important to remember that your life isn't over. Yes, the absence of your grandchildren hurts deeply. Yes, it can feel like a part of your identity has been taken away. But you are still more than this pain. You are still someone with wisdom, love, and value to offer the world. Living beyond the pain doesn't mean forgetting your grandchildren or pretending the hurt doesn't exist. It means choosing not to let it define your entire life. You can hold on to love for your family while also building new sources of joy. Maybe that means reconnecting with old friends, volunteering in your community, or joining groups where your presence makes a difference. Sometimes helping another child through mentoring, church programs, or neighborhood activities can remind you that your nurturing heart is still needed. It also means giving yourself permission to enjoy life again. You are allowed to laugh, to travel, to try new hobbies, and to celebrate the days you're given. Choosing joy doesn't erase your grief. It shows that you are stronger than it. Think of it as carrying both, the sadness of what's missing and the gratitude for what's still here. This shift in focus is powerful. It takes you out of the place of waiting helplessly and puts you back in control of your own story. You can't force reconciliation, but you can choose how you live each day. And when your children or grandchildren see that you've grown softer, wiser, and more peaceful, it may plant seeds that draw them back in time. Living beyond the pain is not giving up. It's reclaiming your dignity, your peace, and your right to a meaningful life, no matter what happens. Point 8. The gift of apology and humility. Sometimes the smallest words can carry the greatest weight. I'm sorry. For many grandparents, this is the most difficult step because you know your intentions were always good. You gave advice because you cared, you stepped in because you wanted to help. But what you meant as love may not have been received that way. And when feelings are hurt, even unintentionally, a simple, heartfelt apology can open more doors than years of explanations. Apology doesn't mean taking blame for things that aren't yours. It doesn't mean agreeing with every accusation. It simply means saying, I hear you. I didn't realize how my actions affected you, but I understand now, and I will do better. That kind of humility is not weakness, it is strength. It shows that your love for your family is greater than your pride. Sometimes it's easier to put those words in writing. A short, calm letter can be powerful, but the tone matters. A letter that says, how dare you cut me off after all I've done, will only deepen the distance. A letter that says, I love you, I miss you, and I want to understand, creates space for healing. Even if your child doesn't respond, you will know you reached out with grace. Humility can also soften your own heart. Carrying anger and bitterness only makes the silence heavier. Choosing apology and gentleness lightens your spirit, even if reconciliation doesn't come right away. It takes courage to step into humility, especially when you feel misunderstood. But remember this, being willing to say, I'm sorry, is not about giving up your worth. It's about showing your family, and yourself, that love is still at the center of who you are. Point 9. Holding on to hope without staying hurt. Hope is a powerful thing. It's what keeps your heart open, even when the silence feels unbearable. But there's a difference between holding on to hope and holding on to hurt. Hope says, maybe one day the door will open again. Hurt says, I can't move forward until it does. Learning to separate the two is one of the most important steps you can take. Staying hurt means replaying old conversations over and over, blaming yourself for what you can't change, or carrying resentment for your child and their spouse. That kind of weight can drain your spirit. It keeps you locked in the past, unable to see the good that's still in your life right now. Holding on to hope, on the other hand, looks different. It's quieter, steadier. It says, I will always love my family, and my heart will remain open. But in the meantime, I will keep living my life fully. Hope gives you the strength to wait without bitterness, to love without pushing, and to dream without despair. This doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means learning how to carry both grief and gratitude side by side. You can miss your grandchild deeply and still find joy in a sunrise, laughter with a friend, or a simple walk in the park. Those moments of joy don't erase your longing. They remind you that life is still worth living. And here's the beautiful thing. When you live with that kind of hope, you show your children and grandchildren the best of who you are. If the door does open again, they'll see not someone broken by pain, but someone who has grown stronger through it. That quiet hope is a gift for them and for you. If you've listened this far, I want you to hear this clearly. You matter. Your love, your presence, and your story are still important, even if your family feels distant right now. Estrangement does not erase the years you gave, the sacrifices you made, or the deep care you poured into your children and grandchildren. That love is real, and it will always be part of you. I know some days it feels like you're being erased from the very story you helped build. A birthday goes by without a call. A holiday passes with an empty chair at the table. Those moments cut deep, but they don't define your worth. You are still a grandparent in spirit, in love, and in heart. No one can take that title away. So while you wait, remember this. You still deserve joy. You still deserve laughter, companionship, and peace. Healing doesn't mean forgetting your grandchildren. It means choosing to carry your love in a way that doesn't crush you. It means protecting your heart while keeping it open. And if one day the door opens, whether through a message, a knock, or even your grandchild reaching out when they're older, you'll be ready. Ready not from a place of desperation, but from strength, gentleness, and wisdom. And if that day never comes, you will still have built a life that is meaningful, full of dignity and grace. You are not invisible. You are not alone. And you are stronger than you know. If this message spoke to you, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Someone else reading may need your words as much as you needed this message. Together, we can remind each other that love never truly disappears.